practice, Chris Buescher. You've also got Ryan Preece, Brad Keselowski, Corey LaJoie. A monster draft preparing to form up. The question is, how racy do they get in that draft?
I'm counting 13 cars up there in that draft. However, that's starting to break up just a bit. The final 5 cars are losing some touch. Maybe it's Kyle Larson, who's leading that 5-car draft, is going to try to see what he can do to try to run down that draft. Get an idea what your car can do and what we say suck up to the back bumper of the other one. And it's taken basically 3,000 feet for him to do just that, the length of the Daytona Super Stretch.
We expect also there to be some pit road practice. Austin Cindric was the first car to pull out onto the speedway. Austin has run a couple of laps, and he's also just come down pit road. He will have pit stall number 2. That's where he just pulled in, rolling the car down the pit road speed, traversing the entire length of the pit lane, ducking into the pit stall, and then pulling back out onto the racetrack, just going through some of the rudimentary things that these teams go through each and every week.
Well, Chris Wilner, we see Elio Castro-Neves in the NASCAR Cup Series car. He's on the racetrack, and he's following Jimmy Johnson, just the two of them by themselves. Chris, it's been an eventful day already for Elio.
Oh, it really has been, Alex. It started about noon this afternoon with the ARCA Menard Series Ride the Dente 200. Not 1, not 2, but 3 different trips around in terms of incidents, whether it was collected with one car, as we saw post-checkered after finishing in the top 5, slammed the outside wall. So he has spent several minutes before climbing in. I saw him walking over, just trying to collect himself before focusing on the Cup Series ride here this afternoon. But yes, learned a lot, though. Was able to finish the race and learn a lot about what the drafting does. Remember, we talked about it back on practice on Wednesday, his first lap, saying, I just need to figure out what the air does around Daytona and how these cars react. Well, he's now had a 100-lapper or an 80-lapper in the ARCA Menard Series event here this afternoon, although it was full with events, and now just trying to keep this Chevrolet clean for Project 91 before he attempts or races in his first Daytona 500. But there are 10 cars, Alex and Mike, that have opted on my side of the Cup Garage to not take practice. Those include Bubba Wallace, Kyle Busch, Ross Chastain, Michael McDowell, Todd Gilliland, Riley Herbst, Chase Briscoe, your pole sitter, Denny Hamlin, Christopher Bell, and Chase Elliott. So that's quite an extensive list opting not to have practice here this afternoon.
They elect to stay in the NASCAR Cup Series garage, while there are several that are on there. 20 of them have taken to the track already. The quickest of the 20 that have hit the speedway, Alex Bowman, a 192.394 mile an hour lap as that draft continues up the Daytona Super Stretch. From Daytona International Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
You crave power, you bleed speed. You live for the roar of the crowd and the taste of victory. But your ride is holding you back. Ignite your engine's soul with E3 spark plugs. The same spark that fuels NASCAR champions unleashes explosive power in your ride. Don't just dream of speed. Make it your reality. Find E3 at your nearest auto parts store. E3 spark plugs. E3, what are you running?
Hey folks, Kyle Petty here. Victory Junction is celebrating 20 incredible years of camp for children with serious medical conditions. And the best part? Because of the generosity of friends from around the world, camp is completely free for the families we serve. Make your gift today at victoryjunction.org/donate and be a part of something truly special. Together we can make a difference for kids and gear up for even more unforgettable experiences.
Back at Daytona, final practice for the Daytona 500 underway. This will be the last opportunity that these teams, these drivers, these crew chiefs will have to put their cars on the racetrack in advance of tomorrow's 67th Daytona 500. By the way, programming update for you that the start of the 500 has been pushed back an hour. There is some inclement weather that may be rolling through the area, so we're trying to get a head start on things. Motor Racing Network airtime will be 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time tomorrow afternoon here from the World Center of Racing.
Right now, 20 drivers have taken a lap here in final practice, led by Brad Keselowski in the draft. 193.307 miles per hour. Keselowski the fastest, Alex Bowman is second quick, Cole Custer, Justin Allgaier, and Kyle Larson make up the top 5 in speeds here in that draft.
Joey Logano was leading the draft. He has gotten out of line. Nobody went with him, but Joey has stepped to the outside of the racetrack. He's going to go all the way to the back of this draft, and I'll be curious, Alex, to see if he gets in the tail end of that, because you're not guaranteed that you're going to lead the whole race. You kind of need to know what to expect, how the car reacts in a pack, or when you have to work your way back to the front.
He does just that, Mike. He'll snap the steering wheel to driver's left and fall in at the tail end of that draft, and now get an idea what his car is going to do as it gets buffeted around in the air. That means Ryan Blaney and Ty Gibbs and Josh Berry are going to be the front 3 right now in that draft. That is about, 12, 13 cars making the way off into turn number 1.
Alex gave you the top 3 in that draft. You've also got Zane Smith in there. Chris Buescher is behind the Zane Smith car. Ryan Preece. You've also got several other cars, including Corey LaJoie, Cole Custer, who's had damage to his car, Kyle Larson, Justin Allgaier driving for Junior Motorsports, Alex Bowman is out there. You've also got Justin Haley, and then the Logano caboose on that freight train, who was once leading that draft a few moments ago.
Outside of that, there are the 2 Colleague Racing Chevrolets sitting idle at the exit of the pit lane. A.J. Allmendinger and Ty Dillon are poised to go out on the racetrack. In the middle of this other draft that Mike just gave you, Kyle Larson pulls out of line. He'll fall back and drop 3 or 4 more cars and get right back in line just before the tail end of it. So guys getting an idea what their cars are doing in different parts of the draft, because the air is different. The air pressure is different. You got to make sure you keep an eye on the gauges, make sure the water temperature stays good. What can your car do if you pull up and give somebody a bit of a push? Nobody's going to get super aggressive, but Ty Gibbs is learning what it's like to push the back bumper of the Ryan Blaney car.
And that's the important thing that you mentioned. You want to know how the car is going to react in the draft. You want to put it in several different kinds of positions, so when you go to execute those moves race day tomorrow, you know how that car is going to respond. You could go out in a 2 or 3 or 4 car draft, but you're not going to be in that kind of draft tomorrow. You're going to be packed together, and you need to know what you have when you drop the hammer going to make that move.
Ryan Blaney's had enough of that leading that pack. He moves up the racetrack, lets Ty Gibbs go, and looks like Blaney's going to try to fall to the tail end. Allgaier did the same thing. He's had enough of that, and he'll drop way back out of things now over there on the Daytona Superstretch.
So right now, Chris Wilner gave you the list a moment ago of drivers who will not be participating in this practice. Bubba Wallace was the first driver that he named. And Alex, that doesn't surprise me at all. That car that he had the other night in the duel at Daytona, it looked to be flawless. It performed very, very well in race conditions.
Yeah, he led most of that first duel race on route to the win. He was solid, and he didn't have to do a whole lot. He didn't have to defend the lead a whole lot. Drivers took some shots at him, but his car was just that good racing here at Daytona. At least it was on Thursday night.
You know, we talk about the horsepower that shows up, not necessarily the horsepower on the racetrack, but you never know who you're going to bump into around the garage area. We had earlier today Elio Castroneves in the ARCA race. He obviously is trying to qualify for the 500, and he did do that. He'll start 41st. Jimmy Johnson has had some IndyCar experience. Look down in the garage. Scott Dixon, several-time IndyCar champion, roaming around the NASCAR Cup Series garage, and I'm sure Scott taking in everything before their season opener at St. Petersburg here in a couple of weeks.
Looking forward to that as well with our friends at the IndyCar Radio Network, Mark Janes, Nick Yeoman, and everybody there. So, the IndyCar season is upon us, but Scott Dixon, a world-class driver in his own right, looked like he's hanging around down there from where we can see, at least, high atop the racetrack, over near Jimmy Johnson's Legacy Motor Club truck. So, who knows? Maybe Scott Dixon's getting a little bit antsy. Maybe he wants to stick a toe into the NASCAR world. Right now, we're under practice, and Brad Keselowski is the fastest so far. From Daytona International Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
The Motor Racing Network brings you more than just race broadcasts. If you're looking for weekly in-depth motorsports coverage, check out MRN's lineup of weekly programs. NASCAR Coast to Coast with Kyle Rickey and Chris Wilner. Wing Nation with Steve Post, Aaron Evernham and Ashley Stremming. MRN's Crew Call with Steve Post and championship-winning crew chief Todd Gordon. And the long-running MRN flagship program, NASCAR Live, hosted by Mike Bagley. Find these shows and more on MRN.com, YouTube, and podcast platforms.
Do you have an unused car, truck, motorcycle, boat, or RV taking up space? Put it to good use by donating it to the NASCAR Foundation. Proceeds help fund medical resources for children in our racing community. Your wheels can heal. Call 844-NASCAR-9 and we'll come tow away your vehicle for free. The process is quick and your gift is tax deductible. Call 844-NASCAR-9 to donate your vehicle to the NASCAR Foundation today. Your donation will help our children survive and thrive.
While practice rolls on here for the Great American Race, it's final practice for the Daytona 500. Mike Bagley a moment ago mentioned IndyCar champ and Indy 500 winner Scott Dixon is in the garage area. Kyle Rickey's found him.
Yeah, he's down here in the pits taking it all in here behind the Legacy Motor Club haulers. And Scott, welcome to Daytona. What brings you here to the World Center of Racing?
Yeah, it's great to be back. Obviously, we were just here with the 24-hour, but still in Florida. We were testing at Sebring this week with IMSA, and then we test IndyCar next week. So I thought it'd be fun to obviously come and watch my good friend Jimmy Johnson back at it for this weekend in the 500, and hopefully wish him a little bit of luck, and hopefully he can have a great race.
So the guys in the booth were speculating, of course, about maybe wanting to get out here and race. We see Elio out there here this week. Have you thought of a potential opportunity?
I can't say I have, but Jimmy and I just started talking about it actually, and it could be something that would be a lot of fun. Maybe a different course, before that or something. Obviously I think stepping in for the 500 is, it's an exceptional race. It's a very tough race. These guys are extremely good at what they do. It's very different from what I do, but I love racing anything. So, I would say it's definitely not ruled out.
Enjoy the rest of the day.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
That's IndyCar star Scott Dixon, obviously finding so much success here on the road course at Daytona, but didn't rule out a potential run here in NASCAR's Premier Series in the near future. So we'll see if Scott Dixon is on an entry list here in the coming months.
He didn't say yes, but he didn't say no, and of course there is an opportunity there, like Elio got in with Trackhouse Racing, that perhaps maybe with the new guidelines in 2025, that perhaps maybe Legacy Motor Club could tap Scott Dixon on the shoulder, and we could see him in a Cup race.
Could very well be. We'll wait and see. Might have had a little breaking news there here on the Motor Racing Network. While we digest that, let's hear from William Byron, the reigning Daytona 500 champion.
Alex, he's the first of the drivers that have now run all 3 practice sessions to be done for the day. William, you start 5th tomorrow, defending winner. How was your final session? What'd you learn?
Yeah, we just kind of did a system check there, so we're just trying to do pit road and make sure everything felt good, and it did. So our car felt really good yesterday in the draft, and obviously a little bit different energy, but the pace was up, so I was pretty optimistic of how my car drove, and we did some other things overnight to make it even better. So I feel really good about my race car. I think it's just it's a long race, and just got to position ourselves, as we go. So pretty optimistic though, for sure.
All right, that's William Byron. He's got a whole crowd of fans signing autographs as William Byron, as they're already going to wheel that Exalta Chevrolet, the really cool paint scheme with the flames on it, and pretty much call it a night. So they're going to make sure everything's squared away, tuck her to bed, and we'll see it tomorrow for the Great American Race.
If William Byron wins the 500 tomorrow, he would become the 5th driver in NASCAR history to win back-to-back 500s. The first time it was done was with the King, Richard Petty. He did it in 73 and 74. Cale Yarborough did it in 83 and 84. Sterling Marlin went back-to-back in 94 and 95. And the last driver to do it was Denny Hamlin. He did it in 2019 and 2020.
One of those Cale Yarborough wins came with a backup car. It was actually a show car after he crashed in qualifying over here in turns 3 and 4, got the car upside down and ruined it. They had to go find a backup car. They had one painted up already. It was the old orange and white Hardee's colors, and it was a Waddell Wilson prepared car. Waddell, of course, a NASCAR Hall of Famer. They brought that thing playing down from the motel showroom as the car was on display, got her prepared, got her qualified, and went on to win the Daytona 500.
Those were the days, weren't they? I mean, every backup car now is prepared to be a primary. But back then, these cars prepared a car here, a car there, to roll to the local mall, to roll to the hotel, to basically just be a show car. Well, they needed a car, so they pulled the car from fan access, brought it to the racetrack, made the adjustments they needed, and Cale Yarborough was able to win one of those, and they were not prepared. They didn't have the best parts. They didn't have the best pieces. It was a showpiece. And this is what we have, folks. This is an opportunity to see what a Cup car looks like. But it didn't have the best of everything like these cars do in this day and age.
Really a great, great story. That's part of the fabric of the lore and makeup of NASCAR racing and part of the fabric of the Daytona 500. And it goes down in the legacy of it. It really is just a great, great story. There's a big pack of cars just pulled off the pit lane. About 6 cars have just rolled on to the high banks in turns 1 and 2, and they're going to come up to speed and do a draft. That big 13-car draft has dissipated. Some drivers making sure their tachometer's set for pit road speed, checking the brakes, woeing off the racetrack to come down the pit lane. Some of them are taking their cars on to the garage, so different agendas ongoing.
You know, you talk about the successes in the Daytona 500, and of course, you know, you begin with Richard Petty and Petty Enterprises and what they've been able to accomplish over the years. Tomorrow, if a Hendrick Motorsports car wins the 500, it will be their 10th win in the Great American Race. But Alex, check out this roster of winning drivers that have won for Hendrick over the years in this race tomorrow. Jeff Bodine, Darrell Waltrip, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and William Byron have all given Rick Hendrick 9 Harley J. Earl trophies to put in the headquarters there in Concord, North Carolina.
It really is impressive, which has led to the Hall of Fame career for Rick Hendrick and so many different drivers who have driven for Rick Hendrick and so many that are yet to be eligible for the NASCAR Hall of Fame that someday will be Hall of Famers.
And when you look at Hendrick Motorsports and what all they've accomplished, had a chance to catch up with Rick Hendrick earlier this week, they have things that they want to be better at. And it's hard to believe that, you know, when you think of all the Hendrick Motorsports championships and race wins and things like that, you would think that it's basically cut, copy, and paste from one season to another. There is one thing that Rick Hendrick says they want to be better at in 2025, and that's flat tracks. Stop and think about it. Hendrick Motorsports has not had much success at tracks like Phoenix Raceway or New Hampshire. The better they get, when they get in position to maybe make the playoffs, make the championship 4, they want to make sure that element of the schedule is buttoned up. We know that they can be successful on super speedways, in short tracks, but now they want to focus on flat tracks to become even better here in 2025.
You mentioned Phoenix. Obviously, that's an important one to be good at because that's where the championship race will be held later this November. So Hendrick Motorsports, when they put their mind to it and they want something to and accomplish a goal, 9 times out of 10, they are going to do just that. Let's transition a little bit and talk about Team Penske. Team Penske, Joey Logano a year ago gave Roger Penske something in the motorsports world that, quite frankly, he's never had before, and that's hard to do. And that's a pole position in the Daytona 500. They have won back-to-back championships. Actually, you look at it, they won 3 championships here with Blaney and Logano, and these drivers, with Austin Cindric in the mix, who's a Daytona 500 champion, getting a win a year ago at Worldwide Technology Raceway just outside of St. Louis. Team Penske has done just about everything that they can possibly do. So you have to say, okay, what's the motivation? Why do you keep going? What is it? And the fact of the matter is that is history. They want to continue to do more. All it does is make them salivate for more success.
Well, they're going for their 4th consecutive NASCAR Cup Series championship. Joey Logano has won 2 of the last 3. Ryan Blaney has won the other. And when you look at what Team Penske does, they will start the season off strong, maybe a good showing in the 500, and then it's almost like they go into that performance valley where we don't hear a lot from them. They'll have a good run here, they may win a race there, but in the summer months, you start asking yourself, well, where's Penske? Where's Penske? As you get closer to the playoffs, that's when they answer the bell. That's when they come to life. And Joey Logano won at the right place at the right time in the right place on the schedule, and that's what led them to their most recent championship this past November.
You can talk to 10 race fans. 5 of them are going to say they love the way Team Penske approaches the NASCAR Cup Series schedule. The other 5 are going to say it's bunk. They don't like it. They shouldn't be doing what they're doing. How do they rise to the occasion when it matters? There's something about it. You got to check the cars. Fact of the matter is everybody understands how it works. You win races, you have a chance to be a playoff driver. You can go into R&D type mode, learn about your race car. You mentioned Rick Hendrick needing to get better on flat tracks. And then Team Penske, when they get to it, when it's playoff time and time to win a championship, they put it all together and go and rise to the top.
Joey Logano, Austin Cindric will be driving for Roger Penske, and so will Ryan Blaney in 2025, and Ryan is with Chris Wilner.
Ryan is out of the race car for the final time until tomorrow's Great American Race. Ryan, final opportunity to shake it down. What did you think about this short session?
Yeah, it was nice. We kind of got in there out there in a little bit bigger pack, which was good, and it was nice the track had some sun on it, because the duels is at night. Yesterday's practice was kind of shaded, pretty cool, so that was nice. I think we'll kind of get these conditions tomorrow with track being hot. And I felt really good about my race car. I think we made some good improvements from the duel and even yesterday. So yeah, it was nice to kind of get pushed a little bit, give some pushes, get back in the pack, see how your car handles in dirty air. So I was able to kind of learn a bunch of stuff. So yeah, I think the Menards Ford Mustang feels good right now. So hopefully that carries over to tomorrow.
I know you came by me with the right front smoke and all those hot pit entries here during practice. How critical is that, knowing that green flag pit stops are everything?
Yeah, they're big. We make more pit road entry runs here than everywhere. Just it's such a lot of time to be gained or lost coming onto pit road, and then also making sure you're not pushing it too hard to where you have to lock a tire up, because a lot of these green flag stops we're doing is just gas, so that can ruin your day really quick. So just trying to get that down, and then you're trying to adjust in the race. The pace is a little bit quicker, so you have to kind of back your brake point up, maybe 20 feet or so. So that's the tough part about it. You can't just make single car pit ins because you're going 3 seconds slower, right? So that's the tough part about it, and those who can hit it right, it's definitely spots to gain.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Thanks.
Ryan Blaney is going to start 16th in the 500. The 2023 Cup champion had a smile on his face before we started that interview, and I said, how's the car? So Team Penske's got some bullets in the chamber here once again.
Team Penske, and specifically Ryan Blaney, they have been so close to grabbing a Harley J. Earl trophy. Blaney himself coming up just short a handful of times. His 2 teammates there, Joey Logano and, of course, Austin Cindric, have been able to do that. They are both Daytona 500 champions. We're down to 26 minutes to go in final practice for the 67th Daytona 500. From Daytona International Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Relive the thrills of over 50 years of NASCAR racing with the Motor Racing Network's classic race.
36th Annual Southern 500. They come down to the start-finish line. Bill Elliott and David Pearson get down.
We dig into the MRN audio vault for unforgettable races and moments.
Dale Jarrett's got the lead. Earnhardt's not going to get him. Dale Jarrett is going to win the Daytona 500.
Available on MRN.com and podcast platforms.
Alan Kulwicki out of turn number 4, the new Winston Cup champion. He does it across the line.
MRN Classic Races.
Don't miss a moment of the NASCAR season.
Chastain drove it and never lifted. Put it against the safer barrier and all the way around the turn. Passes Denny Hamlin.
Check out the Motor Racing Network's coverage of the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, the NASCAR Xfinity Series, and the NASCAR Cup Series on hundreds of local radio stations around the country. Find your local station by going to MRN.com to catch the excitement of NASCAR on the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
Practice ongoing for the Daytona 500. Roush Fenway Keselowski had their 3 cars out there riding along in a draft. They have all come off the racetrack and simulated a pit stop, and they're exiting and go back on the track.
So Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, in my opinion, Alex, on the doorstep of greatness again. Remember, there used to be a time when Roush Racing, way back in the day, Mark Martin, Matt Kenseth, you could put Carl Edwards, Greg Biffle, Jamie McMurray in the mix. They were potent. When they showed up at the racetrack, they were forces to be reckoned with. Then came some lean times that I believe that they are starting to come out of right now. Jack Roush has won the Daytona 500 twice, but the last time he won the 500 was back in 2012 with Matt Kenseth. There's been a Great American Race winning Sahara that has settled in at Roush Fenway Keselowski, but it's the dawn of a new day. Brad, Chris Buescher, the mainstays, have added a third team in Ryan Preece. When Stewart-Haas Racing dissolved, Ryan Preece became a free agent, and they quickly gobbled him up. Now, they've got a 1-2-3 punch, and I believe that this is a race team that is poised and in position to have a lot of success in this racing season. 100%
Agree, especially after Chris Buescher. He's had basically a breakout since he's joined RFK Racing, coming over from then Front Row Motorsports. He ran some at Hayek, but Chris Buescher has been a mainstay now, getting to victory lane over the last couple of years, although last year came just a little bit later in the season. Don't get me wrong, they'll still take a win no matter when it is, but they would like for have been in the playoff as a playoff team. But to still get to victory lane is one thing. And then Brad Keselowski, so much on his plate as a businessman, not only in racing but outside of the sport of NASCAR racing as a businessman, reformulating and resetting what the culture is inside the walls of Roush Fenway Keselowski, and all he had to do there. Didn't win the first year out, comes back last year, wins the Goodyear 400 at Darlington Raceway in May. He gets back into victory lane. The addition of Ryan Preece, this is a strong contingent, and obviously with Roush Yates engines under the hood and Ford Performance backing them as well. This is a good team.
Well, right now for Brad Keselowski, the Great American Race has been a thorn in his side. He has crashed out in 4 of the last 5, and this will be Brad's 16th attempt in the Daytona 500. Perhaps, maybe, Ford glory will be restored to the walls and halls of Roush Fenway Keselowski Racing, and there will be a Harley J. Earl trophy that will make its way back to Concord, North Carolina.
It's one of the hardest trophies to win, and they're going to try to do just that. Another team that's going to try to do that is Joe Gibbs Racing, and specifically the combination of driver Christopher Bell and Chris Wilner, his crew chief, Adam Stevens.
And Adam Stevens is here in the garage area just taking in practice, not opting to participate. So, as one of the dozens of cars that opted not to in teams, what goes into that decision? How much is it just confidence in the race car, but also maybe opting to maybe minimize the risks also?
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I mean, I think for us, we felt like we had the car where we wanted it in the duel the other night. The setups and the rules packages haven't changed in a while, so we've got it pretty much dialed in for doing what he wants it to do, and the duel was a continuation of that. We didn't get the finish we wanted, but going out there and practicing today wasn't going to help our finish position at all. So it's just a matter of like we practiced yesterday a little bit. We changed valve springs and just a leak check, and then spent the time today fluffing and buffing and maxing out to all the inspection stations and getting ready to race. That's it.
I know tomorrow weather forecast is all over the place. Conditions now hot and sunny. But then also you practiced or really raced in the duels at night. So does weather and kind of situational of what time of day play into a factor of things?
It absolutely will. If we could have conditions like this in the race, I think it would really benefit us. We have a lot of grip in our car, and it's very stable, and I think the hotter the track temp gets, the more handling comes into play, and the more it's going to favor us.
All right, he's going to hang out with some folks here. That's Adam Stevens, crew chief for Christopher Bell. Bell starts 20th tomorrow, and they feel like they've got a good piece.
Well, Christopher Bell comes into this race, Alex, a very happy camper for many reasons, but one in particular. In the offseason, Joe Gibbs, the owner of Joe Gibbs Racing, lifted the moratorium of extracurricular racing. He didn't want his drivers racing other things, potentially getting injured and affecting what they do on Sunday in races like tomorrow, like the Daytona 500. So the coach gave his blessing, and Chris Bell has been all in. He's been racing back and forth with Kyle Larson. It's been fun watching Larson win, Bell win. They're back and forth tag teaming. I was talking to Adam myself yesterday, a couple of days ago. He likes the fact that C-Bell gets all of this extra track time because it sharpens his skills and presents a better Christopher Bell to him and that 20 team on Sundays.
Also, a happier Christopher Bell, which means he's more open to feedback, maybe even to some criticism and some coaching, and can give better feedback. When you're happy at work, that can really breed some success. Adam Stevens, Christopher Bell, they have been a great combination since they were thrust together a couple of years back. I expect them to have the same type of success this year, and who knows, could be hoisting the big trophy once we exit Phoenix in November. From Daytona International Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
The Motor Racing Network's podcast offerings are a must for any NASCAR fan. MRN Classic Races feature over 50 years of NASCAR racing. Go behind the MRN microphones with 50 years the voice of NASCAR. Also check out Jeff Gordon, A Colorful Career, The Tough Trucks of NASCAR, Junior's Journey, The Many Hats of Jack Roush, Richard Petty, Road to Royalty, and the 1993 season. Listen to these and more on the show's page on MRN.com or on your favorite podcast platform.
Good morning, guys. I just want to warn you, traffic is tough out there.
We are here for you to tell you how to keep safe.
Everybody who is listening needs to take cover as soon as they can.
To provide the music, talk, and sports you love. And to deliver the news that matters to you. We are the voices you can trust. We are live and local. We are America's broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress you depend on your local radio stations.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
$18 minutes to go here in the final tune-up for tomorrow's 67th Daytona 500. Drafting happened early in practice. There was a 13-car draft that got out there and mixed it up fairly well. Brad Keselowski, he is the fastest so far, and he was indeed part of that 13-car draft, and that's when the fast lap was laid down at a shade over 193 miles per hour.
24 of 41 cars have taken time, and as you mentioned, Brad was the fastest, but Alex, it's also been fun to watch Justin Allgaier. He's driving for JBMotorsports, their first time qualifying for the Great American Race. 10-time Grammy Award-winning artist Chris Stapleton is on the quarter panels with his product. He's going to be here tomorrow. But Justin Allgaier, the defending champion of the NASCAR Xfinity Series, was the perfect choice. And when he raced his way in the other night, I saw emotion out of Dale Earnhardt Jr. I have never seen before.
I agree. And it's great to see that. It doesn't matter who you are. And when you think about Dale Earnhardt Jr., he's experienced the highest of highs here. He's a Daytona 500 champion. He's also experienced some of the lowest of lows here, where he lost his dad back in 2001 in Turn 4 in an accident here on the last lap of the Daytona 500. But to see his excitement Thursday night to be able to race his way into the Daytona 500 is something I don't think anybody in this sport will ever forget, that raw emotion.
Let's go back to the garage and hear from Josh Berry.
Josh Berry driving for the Wood Brothers here this season. That famed number 21 car celebrating 75 years. But first, let's talk about your session out there today. Got a couple laps in. What's the big takeaway and the confidence level going to tomorrow?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I think, our car's had really good speed since we've been here. Obviously qualified well, led some laps early in the duel. You're just trying to learn some, really. I mean, that's more than what we're doing than anything, is just using this practice to learn a little bit for the super speedways and feel a little different balances and work with Miles and kind of see what we can do better. I feel like our car's pretty solid. I think tomorrow's going to be interesting, especially if it's warm out like this. It's going to be, handling is going to play a factor.
With the recent announcement that the Wood family will be throwing the green flag tomorrow to start this race, what's it mean for you to drive for this legacy team here at Daytona?
Yeah, no, it's awesome. It's been so fun getting to know them, and they've been amazing to work with so far. I mean, such a tradition and history in the sport, right? We want to go out and do a really good job for them tomorrow, right? This is a just amazing race team to drive for. Our car's been really solid. Everybody on the 21 team's done a great job, and Motorcraft, Quick Lane, Aero, everybody at Ford for bringing us here and doing what they do. We're excited to go racing, man. I mean, tomorrow it's Daytona 500. There's no better day in the world, really, to get to wake up and go race, and we're just going to try to, really just make it to the end, and I think if we get there, we'll have a shot at it.
5 years ago, you were NASCAR's weekly short track champion around the country from the Advanced Auto Parts Series. Today, we saw Butterbean Queen, who also found so much success in those style cars, win his very first ARCA Menard Series race just a couple of hours ago. How well do you know Butterbean Queen?
Yeah, I know him a little bit. Obviously, it's cool to see anybody from that style of racing have success, and obviously he was excited. He looked like he needed some oxygen or something after it, honestly. He was looking at rough shape, but no, it's always cool, right? Those guys, I've raced with a lot of those guys, and more keep getting opportunities, and it's cool to see.
Best luck tomorrow.
Yeah, thank you.
That's Josh Berry. Will be driving the 21 car for the Wood Brothers. Wood Brothers, that is, has a long way to go, starting 29th in tomorrow's Daytona 500.
Last time we raced here at Daytona was in the Coke Zero Sugar 400, and the Wood brothers went to victory lane with their driver at the time, Harrison Burton. As far as the Daytona 500 goes, the legendary Wood brothers, celebrating their 75th year as a race team, have won the Daytona 500 five times. They did it in 1963 with Tiny Lund, 1968 with Cale Yarbrough, 1972 with A.J. Foyt, 1976, David Pearson, and 2011 with Trevor Bayne, and that's one of them I'll never forget because I got to interview Leonard Wood sitting on the pit wall as the team was celebrating at the checkered flag.
Josh Berry will try to give them another win in the Great American Race in his second start in the 500. Let's go back to the garage and hear a driver that's going to start his first 500.
And that's Shane Van Gisbergen, who pulls off the racetrack and is done for the day. You're one of the drivers, a good handful, that had to go to a backup car after those treacherous duels on Thursday night. What are the nuances of figuring out a backup car versus the primary?
Well, I think it was mainly for the guys. They all from different teams, so they've never really built a backup car like that. So there's lots of little things with the wiring they were learning. But man, it's awesome to get back out. The car feels the same. They've done a great job replicating the interior, and with the Tick Camaro, it looks good again and ready for tomorrow. Done a great job fixing all three Trackhouse cars. We had a pretty rough night a couple of nights ago, so great to get out there and be ready for tomorrow.
Obviously, handling is going to be huge in the pack. Are you comfortable where this race car is?
Yeah, it actually was really good then. The wind really affects it, you only got 4 cars, so nothing on the outside, and in the single file it was a bit odd, but yeah, it felt really good, it felt probably even better than the car the other night, so that's a good start.
That is a good start. SVG, nice job. He's done for practice for the day, and boy, he had a good month in January here at the Rolex. Was poised for a podium finish with Trackhouse when they had that Corvette in the GTD Pro category. Connor Zilic, his Trackhouse teammate, a part of that as well. They finished 9th, but man, he's had a good run here at Daytona, and so far very comfortable with the race car. It's going to be exciting to see what he could do on Sunday.
One thing that stood out in those comments from Shane Van Gisbergen talking about how much the wind moves the race cars around on the high banks here at Daytona.
Matter of fact, it's interesting to point out that there is a wind advisory here tomorrow at Daytona International Speedway. And as you mentioned, Alex, wind and Daytona don't necessarily play well together. We're expecting winds 15 to 20 miles an hour sustained, with gusts to 35 to 40 miles an hour. There's obviously a pressure front, a low-pressure front, or a cold front going to move through the Daytona Beach area tomorrow. The question is, when will it get here? Will it produce moisture? And how long will these sustained winds be in place? These cars could be a handful for these teams tomorrow.
Absolutely could be, and that's going to be a major X factor in who can survive and win the Daytona 500 and hoist the Harley J. Earl Trophy.
Practice for the Great American Race, the Daytona 500, is brought to you on MRN by E3 Spark Plugs. Stuck in slow motion? Unleash the NASCAR fire inside your engine with E3 Spark Plugs. Forget pit stops, too. E3 gives you maximum fuel efficiency for more miles on the road and less time at the pump. E3 Spark Plugs. Power, speed, domination. Get yours today.
We're down to 10.5 minutes to go in the final practice for the Daytona 500. From Daytona International Speedway, this is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
You crave power, but your ride is holding you back. Feeling the burn of mediocrity instead of the thrill of domination. E3's cutting-edge tech, the same spark that fuels NASCAR champions, also delivers maximum fuel efficiency, so you spend less time at the pump and more time on the track. This is championship performance. This is E3 Spark Plugs. Don't just dream of speed. Make it your reality. Power, speed, endurance. E3. What are you running?
The Motor Racing Network's podcast offerings are a must for any NASCAR fan. MRN Classic Races feature over 50 years of NASCAR racing. Go behind the MRN microphones with 50 years the voice of NASCAR. Also check out Jeff Gordon, A Colorful Career, The Tough Trucks of NASCAR, Junior's Journey, The Many Hats of Jack Roush, Richard Petty, Road to Royalty, and the 1993 season. Listen to these and more on the show's page on MRN.com or on your favorite podcast platform.
Nine and a half minutes to go in the final practice here as a cloud has moved overhead and given some shade to this massive sold-out infield. That is the Daytona International Speedway. Beautiful Lake Lloyd that runs parallel to the Daytona Super Stretch over there. The high-rent district of the infield, as they say, with the motorhomes down there that have the waterfront spaces.
Alex, I drove in the tunnel the other day. You can't see a blade of grass. We got so many campers and motorhomes. As you mentioned, the stadium sold out, the infield sold out. You can count on us here at the Motor Racing Network to bring you live flag-to-flag coverage and every story of the Great American Race beginning at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time for NASCAR Live Race Day. While we have the opportunity, let's give you this starting lineup for the Great American Race. Chase Briscoe and Austin Cindric were locked in on Wednesday night. They will be on the front row for the 500. Through the exercise of the dual races that we had on Thursday, Bubba Wallace will start third. Eric Jones will start fourth. You got William Byron has starting position number 5. Chris Buescher starts in 6th. Ty Dillon for Colleague Racing will roll off in 7th. Denny Hamlin in 8th. Ross Chastain 9th. And Joey Logano in 10th.
Tyler Reddick will start 11th. Corey LaJoie raced his way into the Daytona 500. Good finish got him a 12th starting spot for the Great American Race. A.J. Allmendinger will go 13th. Todd Gilliland starts 14th. Austin Dillon and Ryan Blaney are in row number 8. That's positions 15 and 16. Chase Elliott starts 17th. John Hunter Nemechek 18th. Justin Allgaier will go 19th, and Christopher Bell starts 20th.
Kyle Busch and Kyle Larson share row 11. They'll start 21st and 22nd. Ty Gibbs will start in 23rd. Riley Herbston 24th. You got Michael McDowell, your 25th starter. Shane Van Gisbergen, we heard from him a moment ago. He'll drive for Trackhouse tomorrow in his first 500. His starting position is number 26. You got Ryan Preece in 27th. Cody Ware in 28th. Josh Berry 29th. And Cole Custer in 30th.
Ricky Stenhouse Jr. will start 31st. Noah Gragson will start 32nd. Carson Hocevar goes 33rd. Brad Keselowski will start 34th. Justin Haley 35th. And Daniel Suarez 36th. Zane Smith will go from 37th. Alex Bowman starts 38th. Martin Truex Jr. starts 39th. Jimmy Johnson starts 40th. And Elio Castroneves starts 41st. Look at those last 3 drivers in the lineup for the Daytona 500 and how much talent there is in just the final 3 drivers.
A lot of horsepower that's going to be coming from the back tomorrow. Chandler Smith, Anthony Alfredo, B.J. McLeod, and J.J. Yaley did not qualify. They did not advance through the duel. They will be listening along with you to tomorrow's Great American Race here on the Motor Racing Network. Back to the garage and Chris.
Austin Cindric, who will start on the front row. The Daytona 500 is out. Austin, a lot of good drafting runs here. We had to pack about 15 or 20 cars at one point. What did you learn here in this final session?
I did all that for us yesterday, so I just went out and did single car stuff and just came to pit road a few times, checked pit road speed. Feel really good about it. Just got tired Ford Mustang for tomorrow, so I think we've done all we can do. Just go out and race, see what happens.
Your teammate Ryan Blaney did a lot of hot pit entry. Is that something that's you think is critical for tomorrow?
I think so. I mean, being able to be prepared for that, right? And you never know if caution's going to come out, but you got to be ready to maximize every bit of this race.
A lot of laps this week. Are you ready to finally go racing now for real tomorrow?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the fans are too.
Absolutely. That's Austin Cindric, guys, the 2022 champion of this race, going to try to go win another one tomorrow.
He is indeed, as we're down to 5.5 minutes to go in practice. 2 drivers are taking advantage of practice at this very moment. One at speed coming down to the tri-oval. That's Justin Allgaier. One coming up to speed after mocking a pit stop is Elio Castroneves.
On the racetrack right now, we see a lot of shade. The sun is now disappearing behind some clouds. Alex Bowman coming back out onto the racetrack. You've worked all off-season long to get your car ready for the Daytona 500. You have 5 minutes left to get everything you can, because once these cars come back to the garage and the garage closes tonight, they will be impounded. You can do minimal adjustments tomorrow, but basically, Alex, this is it. This is what you spent hundreds of hours planning for, a chance to win the Great American Race, and these are the last few moments remaining to make sure everything is buttoned up and the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
That's part of it. As we continue to watch cars go around, we see a couple of more cars emerging from the garage area. One of them is Alex Bowman. He'll head out onto the racetrack and get in the final 4.5 minutes of practice from Daytona International Speedway. This is the Motor Racing Network, the voice of NASCAR.
The Motor Racing Network brings you more than just race broadcasts. If you're looking for weekly in-depth motorsports coverage, check out MRN's lineup of weekly programs. NASCAR Coast to Coast with Kyle Rickey and Chris Wilner. Wing Nation with Steve Post, Aaron Evernham and Ashley Stremming. MRN's Crew Call with Steve Post and championship-winning crew chief Todd Gordon. And the long-running MRN flagship program, NASCAR Live, hosted by Mike Bagley. Find these shows and more on MRN.com, YouTube, and podcast platforms.
You're not going to want to miss tonight's county fair. I'm going to be...
We are your window to your community.
Did you see the last 5 minutes of that football game last night?
Oh, man, I saw the whole thing.
And a lifeline to keep you safe when danger is near.
Everybody who is listening needs to take cover as soon as they can. This is one of the biggest storms.
We are live and local. We are America's broadcasters. Text radio to 52886 and tell Congress you depend on your local radio stations.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to STOP.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
Brad Keselowski still the fastest in practice today after he was out earlier in a 13-car draft. You know, Mike, in 3.5 minutes, practice is over. All these drivers and teams do now is just figure out what's for dinner tonight, try to get some sleep, and come back tomorrow morning for what could be the biggest day of their lives.
Well, right now you have everybody that's going to button up their toolboxes and their backpacks and everything, and they're going to go back to the hotel. And to your point, probably have one last team breaking of bread together, get a good night's sleep. They're going to be out here very early in the morning. All of us are going to be out here early in the morning because of the events of the day, which will be punctuated by a visit of the President of the United States. Added security measures are already in place. So you're going to be getting up early. You want to make sure that you're at tip-top health and tip-top sleep load and things like that to make sure that you perform at your very best, because anything less may keep you from winning the sport's greatest race.
Mike, you're a Daytona 500 driver, the eve of the race. What would be your dinner on a Saturday night before the 500?
I would go to International House of Pancakes, get me a big old stack of pancakes, and go right on to bed, because that helps me sleep. Right? You get the tank nice and full, shut it down, and get up first thing in the morning and grab it and growl, as Dad used to say.
I like it. I do. That's just part of it. You never know if you're down here in Daytona when you're hanging out around here, what driver is going to come walking in.
What would you have for dinner?
I'd be headed to Ponce Inlet, just south of Daytona on the island down there, and Down the Hatch, my favorite seafood restaurant right on the waterway. Let's check back in with Chris Wilner.
Here with Jeremy Bolins, crew chief for Brad Keselowski. Top of the boards here in this final practice. I know it's a backup car, but can you at least breathe a little easier knowing going into tomorrow that at least it's fast for now?
Yeah, I'm just happy we got this practice in. You know, I was a little worried. You know, you never know what the weather's going to be like down here and getting rained out, but was really proud of this team for working hard on this car and getting it ready to go and showing some speed. So we'll tweak on it a little bit for tomorrow and see what we got.
What is the process like getting a backup car ready in such a short amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, you start prepping on them at the shop, but then when you come here, you have to, you know, put the engine in it and do all the things that, you know, you have to do with the next-gen car or the next-gen system. And so it's a lot of work, and, you know, fully wrapping a car and trying to get the body and everything right while it's all going together. And put a lot of work in on it at the shop, so it wasn't too bad, but it's still, you know, still a lot of work. It was a full day yesterday getting it done.
Appreciate your time. Good luck tomorrow.
Thanks a lot.
Jeremy Bolins, again, crew chief for Brad Keselowski. Fastest in practice, and he told me before the interview, he said, at least the handle's good, but I hear there's wind tomorrow. I said, yeah, wind advisory, so buckle up. He said, oh, boy.
As they say back in my native Delmarva, she'll be blowing a gale tomorrow here at the World Center of Racing.
They will indeed. And matter of fact, RFK, they put in 28 laps here in happy hour practice for the NASCAR Cup Series. 27 seconds and counting. That's all that remains before these cars are put in their garages and spit shine to get ready to be rolled out to the grid for the Great American Race tomorrow.
Cody Ware, the last car on the racetrack, now is doing a little pit road speed practice, and he'll go into his pit box and take that Ford Mustang back out onto the racetrack. And we count you down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Black and red flags are waving at the start-finish line, and the final practice for the Daytona 500 is over. You mentioned Brad Keselowski, the fastest. Alex Bowman, Cole Custer, Justin Allgaier, Kyle Larson, the Fast Five. Corey LaJoie, Ryan Preece, Justin Haley, Chris Buescher, Zane Smith, the top 10. And only 24 of the 41 cars took practice time today. That's it. It's all over. The next time that we will see these cars on the high banks will be on their pace and parade laps for tomorrow's Great American Race.
We turn our attention now for the NASCAR Xfinity Series season opener, the United Rentals 300. We'll be back on with you at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time for live flag-to-flag coverage.
For Chris Wilner and Kyle